Chapter 3 Bullied, Bullies, and Bullying. Well. Welcome back, peeps. I mentioned briefly in a previous chapter that I questioned a couple of teachers in later years on the complete absence of intervention with regards to their colleagues' violent behaviour towards us, even in their full knowledge at the time, which is just like, no. You're not clearing your conscience with me. Now, I know some of the perpetrators are now dead, but regardless, I'm going to point out just a few of them and the sadistic traits that they carried out on us kids. Wrong. Now, even as far back as junior school, and I say junior school because I went to infants, juniors, and then comprehensive, or big school. And you were either a first, second, third, fourth, or fifth year. Yeah, none of that year 9 or year 10 bollocks. No. So, at Winterton Junior School, there was a teacher called Mr. Rushforth. Pasty face, motley complexion, great big scarlet hooter on him. Certainly attributed to probably being partial to alcohol. And to top all that good look off, he had a splattering of sort of whipsy, mousy, thinning hair that just looked shite. Yeah, he was considerably older than some of the teachers. Now, his sadistic, and I use that word in its full enormity because it was, so his sadistic party trick was to prowl the playground at playtime. And without fail, he would pull out a boy, generally a fucking me, because, to be honest, I was a bit of a cutie. Look at me. Gorgeous. And then he would march you to the centre of the playground so you're in full view of all the other kids. And then he would proceed to roll up your trouser legs, quite slowly and methodically, it has to be said. He would roll them up as high as possible, and then with great accuracy, force, and vigour, proceed to slap as hard as possible both of your calf muscles until you were as red as his liver-failing face. Yeah. And I swear, you could even detect his breathing gathering pace, and always stopping just abruptly at the point where he was more likely than not about to climax, having administered another helping of his public displayed fetish, and without exception always leaving a massive recognised handprint. What a weirdo. Just no. Although, that, has to be said, was foreplay compared with what was waiting for you at big school. Right, let's kick off with Mr. Presland. A fairly statuous man, you know, he was decent sized unit. So he would set you to work and then parade up and down between the rows of desks, just waiting to catch someone who he deemed wasn't cracking on with their work. At which point, he wore a large gold sovereign ring. Yeah, pretty good look for the 70s. Not bad. So he would turn the oversized sovereign said ring, and he would turn it upside down, thus being at the bottom of his palm, and then he would smash you over the back of the head with his ringed hand. Now, I was a regular recipient of the Sovereign Scalp Smash, although, in my opinion, was undeserved, because the only reason I was not paying attention was due to the fact that I had already forgotten more at 12 years old than that angry fuckwit would ever know. Next up. Oh, where do you start with this? So this is an example of both mental and physical. Okay? Yeah. So for some reason, probably still now, even though it's less relevant than ever. So for some reason, for 3 or 4 years, we had to sit through RE, religious education. And our teacher of all things from the big book of bollocks was Miss Eccleston. Now, without going into a description, it's no coincidence that we called her Miss Arthurton. Yeah. Little wonder why she was single. And this is back in a time where obesity wasn't really common, to be honest. So it's fair to say that old Ecky blew most of her wages on fish chips and beef dripping bread, which was a delicacy for the lard asses back in the day. Well, old Arthurton's unique take on discipline was to haul you up to the front, right? And not just like you, Baxter, get up here. Oh, no. She would come and grab either your hair or your sideburns, okay? And then she would drag you up to the old style roller blackboard that took up most of the wall. And then she would draw a small chalk circle in the middle of the blackboard. And you think, okay, I've got to stand there with my nose on it. Doesn't sound too bad. You think, oh, Mashy making it up. And it's not that bad. Until old Ecky would then raise the roller blackboard with your nose attached to the chalk spot up to the point where you were shaking like a shitting dog at full height on your tiptoes. Very Christian of you, I'm sure you'll agree. Although, now in hindsight, she was trying to peddle the word of the great mythical sky fairy to the unconvertible. So, no wonder she was pretty pissed off and angry. Plus, the added frustration of never getting cock, obviously. And we had a PE teacher that shall remain nameless, but without fail, picture this. So you've done PE. He would stand at the entrance of the communal shower, make sure you dropped your towel at the entrance, near him, and then he would wait for every single individual to exit said showers, walking past him naked, before retrieving their towel. That, my friend, is fucked. That's just weird. Now, the award for the ultimate administrator of vile, pure, unadulterated, purveyor of all things violent goes to, drumroll please, Crabby Hastings, a metalwork, or rather mental work teacher, whose methods of torture included hitting you with anything at hand. It could be a file, it could be a rod of metal, it could be anything. He would also take the cuffs of your apron or your jumper, tighten them into a vice, and then repeatedly hit you over the head whilst ranting any bile that was clearly pissing him off. He was an angry bastard. His anger and outbursts, they knew no bounds. Vicious, certainly. Manic, definitely. Mental, unquestionably. I do believe he got in bother years later and may have been struck off after a particularly violent incident. Yeah. Such a misfit was Krabby. He didn't even take his lunch with the other members of staff. No, choosing to take his own packed lunch and flask. Now, not sadly for old Barmy Krabby, we found his flask and his pack-up box, and we may have administered iron filings into the flask. It might have happened, I don't know. The odd tack or sharp nail may have gone undetected into his banana and sarnies, but I'm sure you'll agree, richly deserved. Now, honestly, a more horrible specimen of vile hatred I have not met prior to him nor since. He was a complete bastard. End of. Right. Quickly, before we get on to my lack of academic ability, well, certainly on paper anyway, 2 special awards of top oxygen thieves and general wastes of fucking space go to, firstly, Headmaster Dennis Horton, 5'5" of fuck all of note. No, some people speak highly of him. He was a cock. Example. So, he had 3 of us lined up in his office and stated, You 3 make me sick. I will guarantee that by the time you're 18, at least one of you will be in prison. I mean, who says that? Who sows that seed of doubt into 3 young, impressionable minds? Bearing in mind, he'd obviously risen to the top of the table of headmaster, presumably through being the most educated and knowledgeable in his field. So basically, he's a boffin. But we the people, the dipshits, we proved him wrong, because all 3 of us were doing porridge well before his estimate of 18. Yeah, so who's the fucking idiot now, Dennis? You knew nothing. Oh, and he taught Latin. Yep, run that by me again, Mash. Latin. I mean, quare. That's Latin for why. As is vulva. So, last, but by no means least, Don Bastard Johnson. Still alive, still a prick. I can't even begin to elaborate any further due to my lack of respect for this tool. Seriously, it knows no bounds of hatred for this man for so many reasons, and I defy anybody to prove me wrong. Vulva vulgaris. Now, I don't want it to be completely detrimental in terms of the whole landscape of teaching and teachers, because there is one person that stands out in all my years of schooling that didn't add up to that much, because it was fair to say I wasn't there a lot. No. But one person stands out for the only lesson of note that I remember in all of those years. So, it's 1978. I'm 10 years old. Gorgeous. And whatever subject was on the curriculum that day, was not happening. Okay. So in walks Mr. Keith Leedham. Oh yeah. In his then and now trademark PE kit. So I could have been teaching maths, but I'm a PE teacher. That scenario. So he struts in. And he had a bit of an air about him. It was a bit hippie-ish. And he's got a portable record player tucked under his arm and an album. Oh, yeah. Now, for the younger viewers and listeners, an album is a black thing that spins round and round and grooves with a needle, and it makes noises through vibration. I know. Go ask your granddads. So anyway, Keith pops the record player down, opens the lid up and rests the album lovingly down onto the deck. Then he gives each pupil a blank piece of paper and goes on to explain that the record we are about to hear, and both sides in its entirety, is the newly released Jeff Wayne's concept album, The War of the Worlds. Now, rightly so, regarded as an absolute classic. So, Keith, he asked us to write down anything we were feeling as to what we were hearing, which, considering the album's content, you couldn't help but be immersed into a world of imagery. Your imagination was running wild. It was fucking brilliant. The music and the story that play out are as good as it gets. Never bettered, in my opinion. But even in its genius, it was eclipsed by this superb piece of grade A teaching. Okay? So, Keith, Mr. Leedham's response to our thoughts and ideas. How was he going to go about it? Who's going to be the best? You see, every other lesson I'd ever had or was ever going to have are generally designed to elevate and praise victors, and by the same token often ridicule the lesser academically gifted, often through no fault of their own. Yeah. Keith went on to read every paper, right? But no one's thoughts were more or less important than the others. Every person's piece was relevant and accepted and praised. Superb. Keith Leedham treated me to the only one lesson I vividly remember of all of my school days. And I want to thank Keith Leedham, who I know is still around. Smashing bloke. He's done nothing but good in all of his years of teaching at Winterton. Plus, fair play to any bloke who since that day and to this day still struts around in a PE kit. Oh, he rocks that look. Top bloke and a proper teacher. And with respect, I'm going to finish this chapter off with a dedication. I recorded this song a while ago, taken from the same album. So, Keith Leedham, Mr. Leedham, thank you. This is for you. And you lot, I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for your time. Laters.
Summer sun is fading as the year grows old, and darker days are drawing near. The winter winds will be much colder now you're not here. watch the birds fly south across the autumn skies. And one by one they disappear. I wish that I was flying with them. Now you're not here. Like the sun through the trees, you came to love me. Like a leaf on a breeze, you blew away. Through autumn's golden gown, we used to kick our way. You always loved this time of year. Those fallen leaves lie undisturbed now. Now you're not here. Now you're not here. Now you're not here. Like the sun through the trees, you came to love me. Like a leaf on a breeze, you blew away. Gentle tear falls softly from my weary eye. Sit to hide a lonely tear. My life will be forever autumn. Now you're not here. Now you're not here. Now you're not here. Now you're not here.